America first! America first! To all of you, let me explain one damn thing. America, America, America. Dude, you understand? America, America, America. My point is America's first.
What's his point?
America, America, America. What the hell, man? Globalists, no! Goblins, no! This is it. Everybody get ready! America first!
You saw that there is, there is a lot of strife in the House of Jones.
I did not.
All of the not all of them, but there are a handful of info warriors who are... Now, I need you guys to sit down for this, because you're never going to believe this. But InfoWars makes up a lot of stuff. And some of those people are coming forward now, and they are copping to the fact that the InfoWars empire is... based largely on chicanery and con jobs for clickbait and YouTube views.
Why would they do that to all those people who, like,
they want to know the truth?
Hang on their every word.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me those people were misled or, like, brainwashed?
Listen, if you can believe the deep state operatives that used to work for InfoWars...
Nah, this is...
Because they had to have people on the inside.
This is fake news set up from Hillary Clinton.
Hey, maybe you're right.
Trying to divert.
Boy, by the way, she was great on Howard Stern.
I loved her.
Oh,
I
really?
know that. I know. What, you didn't like her?
No, I haven't heard it yet, but I know
yeah.
she did Conan too with
Oh, she
Chelsea.
did the podcast?
Yeah, and I haven't listened to
If
that
only
yet.
she had done Howard during the campaign trail, like he wanted her to. She came off personable, just like Howard wanted her to.
Yeah, I mean,
she was fun. She was really fun in that interview.
well, she had nothing to lose. That's when you want to get people. It's
Right.
always more fun to talk to somebody who, like, used to be president or used to be somebody
Right.
when they're not running for something. If he had gotten her, I know he wanted her during the campaign, and he contended that would have humanized her to a lot of people, and I take his word for it. But she was still running for president, so there's no way that she would have
just been so candid.
Yeah, I think
but I
so.
think that's
I mean,
one of those things where you have to weigh the things like that, which would have used to be like that would have been frowned upon in the 90s, 80s, even like the 2000 elections. But now
People love
that's
that
what
crap.
people want.
They
People
want the
want
candid stuff.
authenticity. They don't
well, maybe
want
she was
the
listening.
robotic.
She was
shit.
clearly listening to the wrong people then.
If she would have said, like, what George Bush really said when Trump got inaugurated, like, stuff like that.
That was some weird shrimp.
Yes, that was funny. I was like, okay, Hillary.
Yeah, she had some good. But and listen, I know a lot of people have their problems with Hillary, and I'm not talking about you tinfoil hat types, the people who think she's running a pedophile ring. That stuff is nonsense. You know that too. You just are more interested in mugs that say liberal tears on them. I'm talking about people who have legitimate issues with her husband. I've had Bill Clinton on this show before. I think he's an incredibly smart guy. Yeah, he got impeached. They were really dancing around that, by the way, too. Talking to her about that, given what's going on currently.
Did they talk about the Lolita Express in his?
They did not talk about that, no.
Okay.
Because listen, I was a Hillary supporter. When I hear these, and when I first heard her talking to him, I was like, oh my God! I didn't realize she was plugging a book. She and Chelsea did a book. I was thinking, oh God, she's dipping her toe in. To see if
No.
Now, I don't know anything about anything, but I'm sure there are a lot of people whispering in her ear. But she's just, whatever you think of her, I guess through the news, or, again, this is a woman who had been investigated many times and nothing comes up, She was talking about her church youth group. She was talking about her $150 Oldsmobile Cutlass that she used to drive in college, that used to break down all the time. The kind of story that checks a lot of boxes that you think Trump voters would want to check. Trump never had an old Cutlass. Dude's never gone to church a day in his life. I mean, she had a coughing fit again on the show, and Fox News is going over it like the Zapruder film. And I'm like, so whatever you think of her, she is a very intelligent, accomplished person. I think most people who are in government on either side of the aisle, I think most of them get into it for the right reasons. Power can corrupt, obviously, and whatever. But just listening to her kind of tell stories about her life and all of the nonsense that she's had to contend with over the last 3 years, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No. Especially a 70
I mean, they still get
year old woman.
They still get, yeah, that's the other thing, too.
She's elderly.
I mean, Trump's 77. This guy's stuffing his face with KFC and slathering bronzer on his mug.
Trump's not that old. Not that old.
Well, he's 71, I think, yeah.
I was going to say he's 77.
I think he's 70.
But, I mean, he might as well be. It's not like the guy's in good shape or anything. I mean, nobody complains about, Bernie Sanders had a heart attack. I mean, So, obviously, there's a double standard. But I think that,
He's 73.
Trump is.
Yeah.
Just turned, I think, right? I think he just had a birthday.
June.
Yeah, it was a very, very compelling interview with her. Whatever you think of her, I mean, you, at the very least, you could say that something like that had the desired effect of making her sound more like a regular person, Which, on the one hand, I think people overestimate when they're looking for somebody to be the president of the United States. I never quite understood the whole, I just want somebody like me. Most of us are morons.
I would never want someone
I want somebody
like me.
who's better than all of us, someone who's smart and accomplished and can, but somewhere along the line, boy, people got really, and I understand there's an element of that where people feel condescended, or I completely understand that. I have to kind of guard myself against that, too, because I know I've had a condescending tone with people that I disagree with over the years.
You have?
Well, listen, I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm coming up on 10 years here. But over the course of my career, I have been much more strident in my opinions, I used to be much more adversarial with the audience. I mean, a year or two into my show in Pittsburgh, people would call me just so I would rip on them. And I'm like, well, that's kind of funny, but I'm not trying to be that guy. That's kind of hacky. Mm-hmm. So, and
it runs its course real fast.
It runs its course, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, obviously I have opinions on things, but it was just a very good interview with her. I think somebody hit me up a while ago, actually, from her publishing company asking if I would be interested, and I declined because it just, I don't know. Nobody's going to do a better job than he is anyway. But I had Bill Clinton on this show years ago. And again, he's a very, whatever personal peccadillos this guy fell prey to, he couldn't keep it in his pants. And, if you become politically ambitious to that degree, this is why politics was never meant to be a career. People love to quote the Founding Fathers, which is great. They created an amazing document. But those guys were farmers and lawyers and shop owners. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why
politics was never supposed to be a career. And so because it's not new news that most of the people who are in Congress, at least the old guys, are lawyers. That's by far the number one career that most people have. There are a handful of doctors here and there. The new wave of younger people, that's why I hate when they talk about, on the one hand, people talk about how they want somebody who's just like them, but then they piss on somebody like AOC because she was just a bartender.
Right.
I'm like, well, a lot of people are bartenders. That's, there are a lot of lawyers who get elected to positions, and that's fine. I mean, whatever it is.
There's a lot of broke lawyers,
but
too.
But that's also going to color the way that you see.
Yeah.
So it's like people who are, the reason you have the situation that you have now is because you have people desperate to hold on to their power. And that comes from the fact that is now your career, or you have been in. You're not a public servant anymore.
No, you're
a career politician. Yeah. And I don't mean
there's a celebrity status now in like you said, the power, and that's why I actually don't really I don't put politicians on a pedestal because I think they're all kind of gross.
I don't think anyone does, though.
I think a lot of people do.
Really?
Especially when they're going to bat for, like, oh, I'm all about Elizabeth Warren, screw Joe Biden, and people go all in for their candidates, and I'm just like, hey, they're all kind of scummy to me. They all are.
But I think anyone who is accomplished in what they do and is at least seemingly trying to, they've got an idea for they think how things should be, and they're not trying to detract from the way other people lead their lives. I think there's nothing wrong with.
There's people that are in it for more noble reasons than others.
Yeah.
But there's still ego and just a lot that goes into it that is a lot of selfishness.
Listen, I don't mind ego. You have to have anyone has to have a huge ego to think I could be the president of the United States. I want to be the leader of the free world. Anybody who runs for that
But that's why I'm
has
saying,
to have a huge ego. It's just you got to get that in check too.
Right. And those are people that I don't look at like even Obama. Does he have an amazing story? Yeah, but is he a person that I look at and go, man, that's who I want to be like? No, because he is still just a guy.
Who do you look at and want to be like, Bill?
You, Alan. But like the opposite. What's the I want whatever he's doing, I'm doing the opposite.
That's right. I want to be the least like.
No, but
you.
I've never like really worship. Like I don't worship heroes. Like Mary talks about people like that, and even Poundcake, the way he worships. What's the big lady? Wendy Williams.
Yeah, but I just take him that's a figure of speech. He's being cheeky.
I don't worship her.
You do too.
I admire her hustle. She is my radio.
You look at her as a professional role model.
Yeah, she is my radio icon, I would think. My radio icon, and then to break over into TV, that's great. That's something Howard Stern has not done. He could have, but he just chose
You
not
know
to.
that he did for a long time, right?
He was
on television for a long
But
time.
I'm talking about mainly radio show.
But
His
was
radio
on
show was filmed.
TV for a long time.
Which I think is like the best case scenario.
He had a sketch show in New York back in the day, and
He also was on
He
America's Got Talent for like 5 years.
He used to beat
yeah.
Saturday Night Live in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know?
But anyway, like I don't know. I never had that kind of admiration for politicians, especially, and so
I can agree with that.
it just there's something off about
I
them
feel
to
like
me.
it's. I mean,
There's nothing that I will ever really feel like I can fully trust them.
correct, because if you're not all in for one cause, like if you're not getting paid out by the NRA, then you're getting paid out by some other, left wing.
No, some people aren't
industry.
necessarily. There are some people who raise their money. I mean, say what you want about Bernie Sanders, and he will probably never be the president of the United States. But this is a guy who has been consistent for 40 plus years.
And I give him credit for that.
So you might not agree with his politics, but you could look at...
buy a I almost dropped an F-bomb. Buy a comb, Bernie.
They cleaned him up for one of the debates, and everybody commented. See, this is why you can't win
I know, right?
politics on television. Everybody's like, what happened to Bernie? He's supposed to look like he rolled out of bed. That's why we like him, and they kind of cleaned him up a little bit. Anyway, I got way off topic, but
Yeah.
InfoWars editors are coming out going, yeah, we made a lot of stuff up. We were trying to get clickbait, and we were trying to get YouTube views.
And then they shut them down. So now there's.
They got right. They fabricated a lot of stuff about Muslim communities in New York so that Alex Jones could do stories about, like, Sharia law in the United States and all that nonsense. Things that, if you are a thinking, feeling, normal human being, you knew that was all made up. But, a lot of people either thought it was true or didn't care. I have a feeling it's just more that people don't care than they actually believe those things.
I don't understand how these people, like Alex Jones, how does he not fear for his life? Like,
I'm sure he does.
Because
I'm
walks
sure
the
he
streets
does.
of New York or wherever he's at. I don't think he has bodyguards. I don't think he really has any money to do
Because
that,
he's screaming into a bullhorn. Nobody's going to run up to a guy screaming into a bullhorn.
That's just your
armor
right there.
I don't know. I mean, he's already responded to the story. These InfoWars editors were like, yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff that went on. Alex Jones drinks very heavily, which shocks zero of us. Drunk driving, staged reporting, pouring an employee's pet goldfish into the garbage, firing an AR-15 at people.
What?
Shooting a bison repeatedly with a handgun, walking around the office shirtless, demanding that staffers hit him, and admitting to many people that he doesn't want to do the job anymore. That I believe. That's the trouble with this kind of stuff, is once you lock yourself in that cage, boy, and you start making some money and you start getting some people who are acolytes of yours, but they're way off the reservation, there's nowhere to go. You can't get out because those people are going to be pissed at you. Like, your fans will revolt against you.
I don't feel...
So Alex Jones says, well, obviously this is a story in the New York Times, and there's nothing true about it. But they're like, yeah, but these are people who worked for you.
I don't feel bad for any of his staffers. I don't know why they didn't step out when he was making fun of the Sandy Hook families. Like, I have no...
But I think for a long time, InfoWars, I think back in the day, was just like... I don't think it was as conspiratorial. I think he was more like a renegade broadcaster. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I don't
they
go
know that
far back
story
with
was
them,
false. Like, they're sitting there...
no, that's where their paycheck is. What I mean,
That's worth a paycheck. Like, how
Yeah.
would you be able to sleep at night?
Because
you're sleeping in a bed that you can pay for in an apartment in New York. I mean, people will do a lot of things.
I would be looking at
money.
my kids like, okay, so when my kids get hit by a car or something like that, God forbid anything happens, they're going to come for me next and say it's a conspiracy?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. Live by the sword, die by the sword, that kind of thing. But anyway, he's, of course, says it's all untrue. But, oh, Alex, I hope he's going to be okay. See, fortunately, he can just have a big bowl of chili and forget this whole incident. And he'll be none the wiser.
Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones, Alex Jones.
I will always picture him shirtless, by the way. I don't care if he wears a shirt. I will always picture him shirtless. I will picture him sitting there with his shirt off. I will also picture him in that video of him tearing his shirt off. Because
he's a showman.
He's a showman.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have that P.T. Barnum quality to you if you're going to get people to pay attention. Somebody sent me they tweeted me a photo of their receipt at some store, and it said $17.75. And they're like, I had to stop myself from yelling like Alex Jones in the store. I'm 1 cent away.
$17.76.
Yeah. $17.75. Brent says, Alan, I was sitting around the Thanksgiving table listening to my brother's girlfriend talk to my other brother's wife about their skincare routine. And all I could think about was that ridiculous clip that you play with the guy going through his skincare routine.
Patrick Bateman.
A lot of people, that is from the movie American Psycho, which is a great book. They filmed about a quarter of it because they could. And, and Christian Bale played the main guy. That's him talking. He said, what is this from? I've searched everywhere and no luck. It's from the movie American Psycho.
In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I'll put on an ice pack while doing my stomach crunches. After I remove the ice pack, I use a deep pore cleanser lotion. In the shower, I use a water-activated gel cleanser, then a honey almond body scrub, and on the face, an exfoliating gel scrub. Then I apply an herb mint facial mask, which I leave on for 10 minutes while I prepare the rest of my routine. I always use an aftershave lotion with little or no alcohol, because alcohol dries your face out and makes you look older. Then moisturizer, then an anti-aging eye balm, followed by a final moisturizing protective lotion.
Patrick Bateman's got to be pumped.
Why?
Because his favorite band's releasing a new album.
Oh, Huey Lewis in the News?
That's right.
Yeah.
They got a new album coming out.
Didn't Huey Lewis do a thing with, didn't he just do a collab with somebody? Did Hip to Be Square?
I'm not sure.
Huey Lewis and somebody else who's like a more contemporary artist did something. Now, is it Huey Lewis and the News or just Huey Lewis?
I think it's Huey Lewis and the News.
Wow. Their first album in 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Does he get arrested at the end of that, or does he die?
Patrick Bateman?
Yeah.
No, you're left to wonder if he imagined the whole thing.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
Nothing happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff for a long. I remember reading American Psycho in college. I think I just got out of college, and I was like, "It's an amazing book. I mean, it's disgusting and brutal and everything." And then they were talking years later about making a movie. I'm like, "How the hell would they ever film this book?" And she did, but again, she filmed about, I think, 10 pages. Most of that movie you could not film. And then they did a sequel with like Mila Kunis or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where she was an acolyte of Patrick Bateman or read, whatever. I don't know. So there you go. Huey Lewis. We've gone from
Weather.
Hillary to Huey.
Sports and weather.
It's called Weather.
Yeah.
New song's called While We're Young. Oh, you want to hear it? Have you heard the song?
I have not.
You know Huey Lewis is hung like a mule too, right? You know that story about him?
Oh, I did not.
He's got a knee shooter, this guy, yeah. Great
Little
voice
summer
though.
sausage?
He does, boy. Yeah, he's got a great voice. You know, Jesse Schultz has got to be over the moon about this too.
I think that's where I read that this is happening. It was Jesse put a Facebook post up, and was explaining everything that's happening with this album.
Oh,
like,
he
these
loves
are road-tested songs
Yeah.
for like the past 12 years. It's only 7 songs.
Oh,
It's
I
not
see.
a
He
lot.
was breaking it down.
Yeah, he's
I
really
see.
into it. But
He's not believing the hype.
I mean, he's still happy about it. I was pretty big into Huey Lewis because of Back to the Future.
Yep.
So that, that was one of those things where I really liked them because of that song.
But Huey Lewis has something
Power
called
of Love.
But he has something called many ears disease, which
Many ears?
similar to the name. It sounds like many ears, but it's called Meniere's disease or something. It's an inner ear thing that causes you to feel like you're constantly spinning. It like F's with your vertigo or
yeah.
something. So that's why he stopped.
That's why I like Square so much, because they can't spin.
That's right. That's why it's hip to be square. But he lost a lot of his hearing, and he couldn't sing because he couldn't hear anything. Yeah, so maybe he figured that out. I don't know. So Huey Lewis and The Weather is the new album. There you go.
So they got
You're
sports
very
and
happy.
weather.
For that. Sport, news, sports, and weather.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris McQuanza got tickets for you after this break. You want to see Bill Squire and some friends do some very funny things at the Agora on the 29th. I will have these tickets for you coming back. 35192 if you want to text.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7 WMMS and everywhere you go on our free iHeartRadio app. From the MGM